Every skyscraper has blueprints. Every blockbuster, a director. And, every single successful tech innovation. Think about the apps running global banking, or closer to home, the networks right here connecting the campus at the Dr. Sam Pack College of Business. They all have something just as vital: IT project management.
That's absolutely right. Without that strategic oversight, the world's most ambitious ideas, they just collapse. They never deliver value.
Precisely. The digital world doesn't just happen to succeed. It gets there through really rigorous planning, adaptation, and, well, the control that comes with strong IT project management.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into a knowledge area that's, you could argue, the most crucial, but statistically,
Yeah.
it's the most frequent reason projects go off the rails.
Project communications management.
Exactly that.
So welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is to break down our source material, give you that comprehensive shortcut to understanding this really essential field. And look, if you're currently in BCIS 5351 IT project management, this deep dive is absolutely tailored for you. We're digging into the origins of project management, its huge importance for IT projects.
Yeah, we're zeroing in on the concepts, the techniques,
Yeah.
the things you'll actually need to apply.
Yeah.
As a project manager or even as a team member in that upcoming group project, that's SO3, right?
That's the one. And mastering communication, it's not just theory, is it? It sounds like survival.
Oh, it absolutely is. The Project Management Institute, you look at their studies, they consistently find that a lack of effective communication, it's the single biggest contributor to project failure, period.
Wow. Single biggest.
Yeah. If you fail to communicate well, everything else, defining the scope, sticking to the schedule, controlling the budget's all constantly at risk. Communication is like the foundation. Everything else rests on it.
Okay, so before we really unpack this huge topic, just a quick but really essential ask for everyone listening. If you find this analysis valuable, for your course, for your career,
Please do.
please like, follow, share it, and make sure you check the description. We've put links in there to supplementary resources, things specifically designed to help with your learning outcomes and those group projects.
Definitely worth checking out.
Okay, let's jump right into the challenge. The everyday reality for a project manager. Let's ground this. The reality of the PM's daily life. Our sources, they really hammer this home. Project managers spend a staggering 90% of their time just bridging communication gaps.
90%, it sounds wild, doesn't it?
It really does. 90% of your career are just speaking, listening, writing, confirming, sorting out misunderstandings.
But it makes sense when you think about it. That number exists because communication isn't passive. It's active. It takes real effort, a lot of skill.
So that 90% is spent trying to get everyone on the same page. People who might be in different countries, different time zones.
Exactly. Different departments, different levels of technical know-how. You're constantly translating. And if communication is inefficient, well, that's the fast track to duplicated work, wasted money, poor coordination, basically project failure.
I think this really reframes the value of a PM, doesn't it? We often get hung up on the technical skills, especially in IT.
Right. Coding, systems, infrastructure.
Yeah, but the sources are highlighting that communication skill, the classic soft skill, that's often the biggest factor in moving up in your career. That's KO1, understanding these core concepts.
Absolutely. We actually see cases where companies hire someone with, let's say, minimal technical skills if they show amazing soft skills and business sense.
Really? Why is that?
Well, think about it. You can teach someone a Java syntax, right? Or Python. That's relatively quick. But teaching someone how to mediate a conflict between, say, an unhappy vendor and a really impatient executive, that's a whole different ballgame.
That takes experience, finesse.
Exactly. A PM's real value is often that ability to translate. Take complex tech stuff and make it make sense to the business side, and vice versa. It's about connection, translation, not just code.
Okay, so to figure out where things go wrong, we need to look at the basic communication model again. Can you walk us through that, how a message actually travels?
Sure. It seems simple on the surface, but it's packed with places it can fail. You start with the sender. They have to encode the message, basically, turn thoughts into words or text or maybe gestures.
Okay, encoding the idea.
Then that message travels through a channel. That's the medium, email, phone call, face-to-face meeting. It goes to the receiver.
Who then has to decode it.
Right. Decode it back into an understanding. But, and this is critical, the loop only closes when the receiver gives feedback. They confirm they got it, they understood it.
Without that feedback, you're just shouting into the void.
Pretty much. You don't know if the message landed.
And standing right in the middle of that, encoding and decoding, the bad guy. Noise and barriers.
Always. Noise is Well, anything that messes with the clarity or the flow. In IT projects, it could be literal noise, like a bad connection on a conference call.
Or static, yeah.
Or it could be psychological noise,
Mm.
biases, people being overloaded with information, not really listening.
What kind of barriers do the sources highlight, especially for IT projects, which are often global?
Oh, there are some toxic ones. Physical distance is a big one.
Yeah.
Deep cultural differences, huge. Language barriers, obviously, but also just technical jargon, right? Acronym soup.
Mm-hmm. Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. Then there's internal hostility, maybe between departments, and something called the evaluative tendency of the receiver.
What's that?
It means they stop listening to what you're saying and start judging you, the messenger. They're evaluating you instead of the message content.
Okay. That definitely happens. And sometimes the simplest barrier is the worst, isn't it? Like mixed messages.
Yeah.
Or someone just not sharing critical info.
Yeah, deliberately withholding information. If someone, for whatever reason, doesn't want the project to succeed, communication becomes a weapon. It absolutely happens.
Scary. And this leads to that, frankly, astonishing finding about how we actually communicate face-to-face. The tiny percentage, that's just the words.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it? The research suggests only about 7% of communication in face-to-face interaction comes from the actual words spoken.
7%. That feels wrong. It's hard to grasp. If I send a detailed email update, am I just working with that 7%?
Essentially, yes. And that's precisely why email is so often misunderstood. You lose all the other cues.
So where's the other 93%?
It's split. A chunk is vocal. The pitch, the tone, the speed you talk, sometimes called paralanguage. And the biggest chunk, nonverbal cues, body language, facial expressions, gestures, how you hold yourself.
Okay, so the critical takeaway for a PM is, if you're just focusing on the words in a high-stakes meeting, say negotiating or resolving conflict,
You're missing 93% of the signals. You miss the hesitation in their voice, the flicker of anxiety in their eyes, the disagreement hidden under polite words. You've got to pay attention to that other 93% to really understand what's going on, especially with stakeholder satisfaction. It's a tactical necessity.
wow. Okay, so given this massive challenge, this 90% time sink, how does the official project management body of knowledge, the PMBOK, how does it try to structure this? It can't just be left to chance.
No way. It has to be structured. The PMBOK lays out 3 core processes specifically for project communications management, and these cover the whole project lifecycle, making sure it's a planned activity, not just random emails.
Right. What's the first one?
First up is planning communications management. This is all the strategic work you do up front, ideally right when the project kicks off. You figure out the who, what, when, why, how, and by whom for all project information.
It sounds like setting up the rules of engagement for information flow, like a governance structure.
That's a great way to put it. The main output here is the communications management plan. This document details everything. Who needs what info, why they need it, the reporting lines, the tech you'll use, we'll get into tools later, and how often things get sent out.
Can you give an example?
Sure, maybe a junior developer needs daily technical updates via Slack. But the executive steering committee? They only need a high-level status report, maybe presented in person once a month. Planning this prevents both bombarding people with useless info and also creating critical information gaps.
Okay, plan is set. Then you actually do the communicating.
Exactly. That's managing communications. This is the execution phase. You're actually creating, collecting, distributing, storing, retrieving, and eventually disposing of project info, all according to the plan you made.
So holding the meetings, sending the reports, updating the SharePoint site.
All of that. It's about ensuring that effective, efficient flow of information between everyone involved following those pre-agreed rules.
And finally, there has to be some kind of oversight, right? Checking if the plan is actually working, adjusting it.
Absolutely critical. That's controlling communications. This happens during the monitoring and control part of the project. Its job is vital, constantly watching the communication flow to make sure stakeholders' needs are actually being met throughout the whole project.
What's a common failure here?
Mistaking activity for effectiveness. Sending out tons of emails doesn't mean people are reading them, understanding them, or acting on them. Controlling communications checks for effectiveness.
So let's say our issue log shows scope creep keeps happening because the QA team didn't get the right requirements doc. What does controlling communications do?
Good example. That failure metric, the high number of scope-related issues triggers an evaluation. The PM has to ask, was the communication channel wrong? Was the timing off? Was there noise that stopped them decoding it?
And if they find a problem?
They don't just send another email, they formally raise a change request to tweak the original communications management plan. And crucially, that adjustment and the documentation of why it failed gets fed back into the organization's knowledge base, what we call organizational process assets.
Ah, so you learn from it. That's KO2, right? Evaluating situations and applying concepts.
Precisely. It makes communications management adaptive, iterative. It's not a document you write once and forget. It evolves.
Okay, that planning process sounds absolutely vital, especially because as soon as you get more than a few people on a project, the complexity just seems to explode.
It really does. And we can actually quantify that explosion. There's a formula for calculating the number of potential communication channels.
Yeah.
N times n minus 1 divided by 2, where n is the number of stakeholders.
Then in 1, 2.
Okay, this simple formula is probably the clearest way to show why you absolutely need a solid plan for complex IT projects.
Let's walk through that. Say a small core team, 5 key stakeholders.
Right.
N5.
So 5 times 5 minus 1, which is 5 times 4 equals 20. Divided by 2, you get 10. 10 potential communication channels between those 5 people. That feels manageable.
Okay, 10 channels. Now let's add just 2 more people, maybe a compliance officer and a new vendor. So N is now 7.
All right, 7 times 7 minus 1. That's 7 times 6, which is 42. Divide by 2, 21 channels.
Wow, it more than doubled just by adding 2 people.
Exactly. Now imagine a big ERP implementation. You've got dozens of core team members, external consultants, exec sponsors, and user reps, and could easily hit 50.
Okay, 50 times 49 is 2450. Divide by 2. 425 channels.
12,225 potential communication pathways. The point isn't just the number, it's the management nightmare. A PM cannot personally manage 12,225 individual conversations. It's impossible.
So the plan has to define who talks to whom and how to channel that chaos.
That's the strategic choice. Do you try to silo communication? That's faster maybe, but super risky. Or do you manage broader stakeholder engagement? Slower, maybe, but ensures everyone who needs to know knows. The PMBOK makes us acknowledge this huge number of potential channels because if you ignore how interconnected everything is, you get silos, missed dependencies, and project risk goes way up.
Okay, so once we grasp that complexity, we need the right tools, or maybe techniques, to actually manage the information sharing. The sources talk about 3 core methods.
Yeah, 3 main techniques for information exchange. Effective PMs mix and match these, choosing the right one based on, say, how urgent or sensitive the information is, or just the sheer volume.
What's the first one? Sounds like the most intense.
That's interactive communication. This is where you have an immediate two-way exchange. The information gets acknowledged, often acted on right away.
So like meetings, phone calls, video conferences, high bandwidth, high trust.
Exactly. It's best for sensitive or really important stuff because you get instant feedback. You can read the room, leverage that 93% nonverbal data we talked about. It's the gold standard for nailing down client requirements or sorting out conflicts, maybe with vendors.
Okay, interactive for critical moments. What's the opposite, the more one-way street?
That's push communication. Here, the sender pushes information out, but they don't necessarily expect or need an immediate reply.
Like emails to a big list or newsletters.
Perfect examples. It's good for updates that aren't time critical, maybe mandatory compliance changes, or sending out standard documents like a revised project charter.
But isn't there a huge risk here? People just getting buried in emails and tuning out, alert fatigue?
Massive risk. That's the big caution. Rely too heavily on push, and people start ignoring it. They assume it's not urgent. Or worse, it can feel neglectful, like you don't care if they actually understood it.
So use it sparingly for specific things.
Yeah, maybe restrict it to like formal weekly status summaries or monthly executive reports, stuff where the content is really curated and expected.
Okay. Interactive push. What's the third one? Sounds like it's about access.
Pull communication. This is where you make information available, and stakeholders can pull it down whenever they need it on their own time.
Ah, like a project website or a knowledge base?
Exactly. Centralized project archives, a SharePoint portal with all the technical specs, test plans, old meeting minutes. It's super effective for transparency and for sharing huge amounts of data that only a few people might need at any given time.
Great for IT teams, right? A developer needs an old spec doc. They can just go find it without bugging everyone.
Correct. Pull communication really shows trust and transparency that links to SO2, managing project phases transparently. The real skill for the PM is knowing when to use which method. Interactive for urgent problem solving, push for standard broadcasts, pull for broad access and archiving. It's about choosing the right tool for the job.
Speaking of documentation and transparency, we need to clarify 2 key reports, status reports versus progress reports. They sound similar.
They do, but the distinction is vital. This is KO3, knowing the terms. A status report tells you where the project stands at a specific point in time. Think snapshot. It focuses on current health against the plan.
Like earned value analysis, EVM.
Perfect example. EVM gives you that snapshot. Are we on track with scope, time, cost right now? It answers the question, are we green, yellow, or red today?
Okay, status is where we are now. What about progress?
A progress report describes what the team accomplished over a specific period of time that just passed. So a weekly activity report detailing tasks done, milestones hit, hours burned last week. That's a progress report.
Got it. Progress is what we did. Status is where we stand.
Exactly. A common mistake PMs make is mixing them up, or not linking the status metrics like EVM back to the overall project baseline, which makes the report kind of meaningless.
And one more key output, the one that helps future projects.
The lessons learned reports, so important. These are basically reflective notes, analytical statements from the team, documenting what went right, what went wrong, and why during the project.
Capturing the wisdom, good and bad.
Exactly. This documented wisdom is crucial because it feeds back into the organization's knowledge base, hopefully preventing future teams from making the same mistakes. Builds organizational maturity.
Okay, let's pivot now. Let's talk about the reality for most IT projects today, and certainly for the context of your studies in BCIS 5351, the virtual dispersed team.
Yeah, the new normal, right? Whether you're managing developers across 3 time zones for a cloud migration or coordinating a software rollout with remote contractors, face-to-face contact is limited. And those nonverbal cues we talked about, severely reduced.
And that lack of physical presence, it's not just inconvenient, it actually causes problems.
Well, huge problems.
Yeah.
It's like a silent killer for collaboration. Studies show this virtual setup breeds misunderstandings. It lowers trust. It can even hit motivation because people feel isolated. It's just harder to share that same context, that gut feeling you get when you're in a room together. Teamwork weakens, decisions slow down.
So if 93% of communication isn't the words, how do we, as PMs, actively compensate when most of our interaction is through a screen or even just text?
It takes conscious effort. The courses lay out 7 specific nonverbal challenges in virtual teams, and crucially, practical ways to tackle each one. This is pure KO2 evaluating situations and applying concepts.
Okay, let's break them down. What's the first challenge?
First, tone of voice. We touched on this, relying on email, Slack, Teams messages, or even just dealing with bad audio on calls. Misinterpretation runs rampant.
That research number was shocking, right? Like 76, 79% find it harder to read tone in writing.
Yeah, that quick, dry email you sent, just to be efficient. It might sound really harsh or dismissive to the receiver.
Explains a lot of online arguments. So what's the fix, other than pick up the phone?
Well, first, set clear team guidelines. Maybe agree to sensitive feedback always happens over video or phone. And in writing, practice explicitly stating your intent. Like literally type, just checking in, this isn't urgent, or FYI only, or my feedback here is purely technical, not personal. Over-communicating intent helps.
Okay, explicitly state the tone. What's number 2?
Second, facial expressions.
Yeah.
Hard to read emotions, spot skepticism, or even just see if people are engaged when you're looking at tiny video squares, maybe low-res ones. Plus, you get Zoom fatigue. People just turn cameras off.
Right. Can't read what you can't see. Solutions.
2 parts, tech and culture. Use good quality conferencing tools. High resolution matters. Culturally, encourage cameras on not as a mandatory I'm watching you thing, but as a tool for better collaboration. That stat was interesting. 62% of remote workers actually prefer cameras on because it makes communication easier for them.
Huh.
Interesting.
Also, actively use visual aids. Share your screen, use a virtual whiteboard, give people a reason to look at the screen and see reactions.
Makes sense. Okay, third challenge.
Third, body language. Cameras usually just show shoulders up. You miss the full picture, someone leaning forward eagerly or maybe leaning back, arms crossed.
Yeah, you lose a lot of those cues. How do you compensate?
You have to be more intentional, more explicit. As a PM, actively show you're engaged. Exaggerated nods, maybe a visible thumbs up. And critically, use the built-in virtual reactions in tools like Teams or Zoom, the hand raise function. Use it instead of physically trying to interrupt politely.
Okay, use the tools.
Fourth, eye contact. This is a tricky one virtually. When people are looking at their notes or another monitor, or even just the video feed of others on their screen instead of the camera lens, it feels disconnected, less engaging.
Yeah, it can feel awkward. What's the discipline here? Practice looking directly into the camera lens when you're speaking. That simulates eye contact for the people watching you. Try to position your camera near the main video feed on your screen so you're looking towards the lens even when watching others.
Good tip.
And, maybe most importantly, normalize verbal feedback. Since you can't always rely on visual cues, use phrases like, okay, I understand, or got it, or that makes sense. It confirms you're tracking, even if your eyes momentarily dart away.
Okay. Number 5.
Fifth, gestures. You know, the hand movements we use to emphasize points or show relationships between ideas. Limited visibility makes this harder.
Right. So how do we fix that? Ask everyone to sit further back.
You could adjust your camera to show hands more, but the key practical fix is simpler. Verbalize your gestures. Just say what you're doing. I'm nodding strongly in agreement here. Or, okay, I'm holding up 2 fingers. We have 2 main options.
Narrate the gesture. Got it.
And always be mindful of cultural differences with gestures. What's fine locally might be offensive globally.
Good point. Okay, 6th. This one feels really common.
6th, silence. Silence in a virtual meeting is the worst. It's so easily misinterpreted. Is it a tech glitch? Did my audio cut out? Are they confused? Are they angry? Or are they just thinking?
Right. Instant anxiety. How do you manage silence?
First, have a symptom. Maybe use the hand raise function for speaking turns. Or do quick round-robin checks if you need input from everyone. If unexpected silence hits, always check the tech first. Can everyone still hear me okay?
Rule out the tech gremlins.
Exactly. And then, normalize pausing. Actively tell the team, hey, it's okay to take a few seconds to think before jumping in. Reduce that pressure to immediately fill the void. It helps with thoughtfulness and combats that Zoom fatigue.
Okay, normalize pause.
Yeah.
And the last one, number 7.
7th, spatial dynamics. Or rather, the lack of them. It's that missing sense of physical presence. We miss the casual chats by the coffee machine, the spontaneous whiteboard sessions.
Yeah, the bump into conversations.
Right. And research shows that physical separation makes it harder for remote teams to really share the same understanding. Teamwork can suffer.
So how do you create that sense of shared space virtually?
You have to be intentional about creating virtual closeness. Use those shared virtual whiteboards. Tools like Miro or Mural are great for brainstorming together. Actively encourage short, informal virtual check-ins, like a virtual coffee break, and keep shared status updates visible on platforms like Slack or Teams so people feel connected to the team's activity.
This leads us perfectly into where things are heading. Technology, especially AI and machine learning, seems poised to really change how we manage and control project communications. This definitely needs those research skills, SO1, to evaluate what's coming.
Oh, absolutely. AI is taking project management way beyond just scheduling tasks. We're talking about really intricate, predictive, adaptive communication systems now.
What's a key technology here?
Natural language processing, NLP, is huge. It's getting really good at pulling actual insights out of all that unstructured text data, the mountains of emails, meeting minutes, chat logs that no human PM could ever fully process.
And what's the killer app for NLP and comms right now? Seems like it's sentiment analysis.
That's probably the most impactful one currently, yes. Sentiment analysis tools read the text emails, chats, survey comments, and gauge the underlying feeling. Is it positive, negative, neutral, worried?
So it's like an early warning system for team morale or stakeholder happiness.
Exactly. It can flag potential disengagement or brewing conflict way before it explodes. Imagine your system flags that the technical team's chatter about the new database design suddenly shifted from, say, optimistic to highly concerned. As a PM, that's a signal for immediate, proactive, interactive intervention. You jump on a call, you don't wait for things to break.
That's powerful. And AI is also streamlining things, right? Helping with that 90% time commitment.
Big time. That's the efficiency play. You've got AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistants now that can handle routine questions from stakeholders. Where's the latest requirements doc? When's the next demo? Instant personalized answers.
Frees up the PM for the complex stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Reduces delays, improves transparency, lets the PM focus on those tricky negotiations where reading the nonverbal cues is critical. And beyond chatbots, we're seeing predictive comms.
Predictive comms. What does that mean? Does it predict my next email?
Not quite like that. It's more sophisticated. Deep learning models analyze historical project data, communication patterns, even external factors.
Like what external factors?
Maybe seasonality, like knowing resources get scarce around holidays. Or maybe regulatory updates that increase risk. Or just identifying high workload spikes that historically correlate with communication breakdowns.
Okay, so it finds those patterns.
Right. And then it predicts when your team is statistically most likely to suffer a critical communication failure or miss a key deadline. It gives the PM a heads up to intervene before the schedule slips, maybe by reallocating resources or adjusting workloads proactively. It's about dynamic prediction for better precision.
Very cool. Okay, shifting from the future back to the tools everyone uses now. Let's get into that big debate. Microsoft Teams versus Slack. This is a huge practical decision for organizations, especially those already in the Microsoft world.
It's a classic business case study, perfect for SO1 analysis. For a lot of companies, especially maybe folks here at the Dr. Sampak College of Business using Microsoft 365 already, Teams often feels like the no-brainer default. Why? Because it's often bundled in the license.
So cost is a major driver, avoids paying for Slack separately.
Right. You avoid that extra expense and the hassle of managing another overlapping tool.
Beyond cost, what are Teams' strengths? Where does it shine?
Integration is its superpower. It ties in really tightly with your Outlook calendar, SharePoint for documents, OneDrive, the whole Microsoft ecosystem. It's also generally seen as really strong for enterprise-level video and audio calls, handling complex meetings, and offering broader features like integrated phone systems, call centers, approval workflows. It wants to be the single hub.
The one-stop shop. Yeah. But the core function, the rapid-fire chat where Slack got its start, that seems to be where Teams gets the most criticism.
That's the common refrain. Users frequently complain about the chat experience, the UX. Things like formatting issues when pasting code snippets or detailed text, it being a bit of a resource hog on computers, sometimes feeling laggy.
I've heard the search function isn't great either.
Yeah, search is a frequent pain point. People struggle to find older, important conversations. And the way it separates teams, the channels for specific projects, from chats, your one-on-one or small group DMs, that structure can sometimes stifle spontaneous conversations. People aren't sure where to start a discussion.
And for developers, building custom integrations.
Often cited as more complex, the Microsoft bot framework needed for custom bots and teams is generally seen as more complicated than using Slack's webhooks, which are pretty straightforward for developers.
Okay, so given those criticisms, why does Slack still have such a dedicated following, even though it costs extra?
It really boils down to the core chat experience. Slack is almost universally praised for being faster, more intuitive, just having a better UI UX for real-time chat. Its search is generally considered much better. And features like threaded conversations are really well implemented, making it easy to follow complex discussions within a channel.
And integrations.
Still a strong point, especially for developer tools. Connecting CI/CD pipelines, monitoring alerts, things like that, often easier and more flexible in Slack.
So for our listeners, the practical business decision comes down to quantifying that trade-off, right? Is Slack's arguably better chat experience and developer integration worth the extra cost compared to the free but maybe clunkier Teams that's already part of their M365 license?
That's the calculation. You have to weigh user efficiency, adoption, maybe even developer happiness against the total cost of ownership. There's no single right answer. It depends on the organization's priorities and workflow.
All right, final section. We've planned communications, we've executed using different channels and tools. Now, how do we actually know if any of it worked? How do we know if that 90% effort was effective? Why is measurement so important here?
It's absolutely critical. This closes the loop back to the controlling communications process. That's KO3 again. Without measuring, you simply don't know if your message actually reached the right people, and more importantly, if it had the intended effect. Did it lead to the right action? Did it change behavior?
If you can't measure it, you can't manage it, especially not that 90% time sink.
Exactly. You're just guessing otherwise.
And the sources mention a good starting point for organizations wanting to improve is the internal communications audit.
Oh yeah, the internal audit is like finding gold dust. It's a rigorous process surveys, one-on-one interviews with staff, analyzing how platforms are actually being used.
So getting real feedback from the ground up.
Precisely. It gives you unbiased insights into what employees actually think, how much they trust the communications, what channels they really prefer and use. It helps you move past assumptions. Maybe the audit reveals that, say, the engineers completely ignore official company emails, but live inside a specific Slack channel integrated with their Jira board.
Okay, that's valuable intel for targeting comms.
Totally. It lets you reset your strategy and align messaging with how people actually work and what the business needs to achieve.
And when we start measuring performance, the key is looking beyond just, did we send it, to, did it make a difference? So blending quantitative and qualitative metrics.
Yes, that blend is crucial. You need both. Quantitative metrics are about the reach, the output, the volume, the speed.
Like email open rates, click-throughs.
Exactly. Those are common ones. How many employees were reached by a message? What was the average response time on the help desk? In a project context, maybe how many documents were uploaded to the SharePoint site this week? That stat, about 77% of orgs tracking open rates, shows it's common.
But those numbers just tell you the message went out or was maybe seen. They don't tell you if it was understood or believed or acted upon.
Correct. That's where the qualitative metrics come in. They measure the impact, the outcome.
Like what? How do you measure understanding or impact?
Things like employee engagement scores from surveys, sentiment analysis, which we talked about with AI really gauging satisfaction or discontent. About 60% are tracking that now. And then there's the behavioral change index. Did people actually start using the new process you communicated? Did they adopt the new tool? About 63% are trying to measure that change.
So the shift is from measuring outputs, we send 10 emails, to measuring outcomes. Did those emails lead to the desired result?
That's the goal. Did the communication actually achieve something tangible for the project or the organization?
And there are best practices for making sure these measurements are actually useful, not just numbers on a dashboard.
Definitely. First, you need crystal clear objectives for your communication, and they must be tied to business goals. Are you trying to reduce project risk, drive adoption of a new system, speed up decision-making?
Okay, know why you're communicating and measuring.
Second, establish baseline measurements before you change anything. If you roll out a new comms plan, you need to know what engagement or adoption looked like before you started so you can actually see if your plan made a difference.
Measure before and after. Makes sense.
Third, continuously collect feedback. Use pulse surveys, focus groups, whatever works, and then act on that feedback. Iterate your strategy. It's a learning loop, not a one-time measurement.
And finally, always tie it back to the bottom line, the ROI.
Absolutely non-negotiable. If you can't show how better communication leads to tangible benefits, faster project completion, cost savings, improved productivity, reduced errors, then it just looks like administrative overhead. It gets cut when budgets are tight.
Is there evidence linking good comms to business results?
Oh yeah. That McKinsey research is compelling. Companies that were strong in people analytics and communication saw, on average, a 25% jump in business productivity, an 80% increase in recruiting efficiency. Measurement isn't just about ticking boxes for governance. It's a direct driver of performance and profitability. #tagged outro. So let's try and synthesize this deep dive. Project communications management. It's not a side gig. It's truly the core competency that, eats up 90% of a PM's time and really determines if a project flies or fails.
And success really hinges on having that adaptable toolkit, right? Knowing when to use interactive, push or pull communication, and really understanding and planning for that complexity explosion that NN1 thing really sticks with you.
It does. And in today's virtual IT world, we absolutely have to get past relying on just the 7% of words. We have to consciously compensate for losing those nonverbal cues, stating our intent clearly, encouraging cameras, maybe using AI sentiment analysis to keep a pulse on trust and engagement across dispersed teams.
And the future here looks really dynamic, using tech like NLP, predictive comms, moving from just reacting to problems towards really data-driven proactive intervention. Which means for you listening, you'll need to make smart research choices about your tools, weighing that slicker UX against integrated, maybe lower-cost options like Teams versus Slack.
Ultimately, remember that project success isn't just about the tech skills. It's about the leadership, the strategy, the clarity that comes from managing information flow effectively. Mastering this knowledge area, like you're doing here at the Dr. Sampak College of Business, it's just fundamental to turning those big ideas into real, measurable impact.
We really encourage you to check out the episode description. We've put supplementary materials there. And definitely connect with the Dr. Sampak College of Business to explore these ideas further.
And as you're prepping for those group projects, here's a thought to chew on. If every single IT project communication channel suddenly failed tomorrow, no email, no Slack, no Teams, no status reports, nothing, what critical function in your own life or in your organization would be the very first thing to just crash?
Behind every app launch, every online order, every single innovation, there's IT project management making it all possible. Until next time, keep exploring the world where ideas become projects and projects shape our future.